Okay, so I've obviously already got the code that I use saved. Again, this will be in the resources, so I can just overwrite that, and if I save, then all of these will go grey except for the website URL, which relates to the honeypot, as I mentioned. So the other thing to set is messages, and again I've got a piece of text that I use that I put into these terms that the sender must accept. So that's the message that the user will get. If we go back to the form, if they try to submit without ticking this box, then they will, let's just fill this in and I'll show you how that operates. Test 085 blah 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 number, email address, and a message. So now if I try to submit that, it's going to say to me, sorry, did I click the button? Okay, something is not working. It's probably because I haven't saved it. Okay, now let's just refresh that. Okay, so now I try to submit. Okay, there's something not working there, so let's just go back and check the form. Okay, it could be that because I've copied it out of here, there's a bit of code behind there that is slightly incorrect. So let me just quickly go to another site where I've got the form that works and copy the code from there. Okay, so contact form. I don't use the same contact form on every single site, but a lot of them have a very similar contact form. So let's just copy that and paste it into this one. Refresh. Okay. There's still an error there. Okay, I'm not sure why that is. So what you're seeing here is real life web development, whereby sometimes things do not work. And you're going to have to go in and just figure out what the issue might be. Now, the way I would approach this is I would probably just start again. I would create a new contact form and give it a title, main contact form. Save that. So now we've got a new shortcode. Now let's just go in and put that new shortcode onto this page. Save and update. So now we'll see, if I refresh this, we'll see that it's back to its completely default form layout. There we go. Okay, so now what I'll do is I'll go back in on, I'll try putting this formatted code in and save. Then I can refresh that page again and we should get the new layout. There it is. Now let's try. Now I'm still getting that funny little symbol there. I need to try and diagnose what this problem is. but I think I may have to come back to it. Let me just check that the plugins are all activated correctly. Looks like they're all fine. I'm going to deactivate the contact form and then reactivate it. And refresh. No, it's still not happy. While I'm seeing that, you see that this is showing the shortcode to Honeypot now. That's because I deactivated the contact form, and it's also deactivated the Honeypot in the process. So if I reactivate that plugin, that will then disappear and become a hidden field again. Now it could be that because I haven't got the privacy policy set up, let's just go in and edit the contact form and just take out the section that has the privacy policy in and the acceptance tick box, and save that and click refresh. This section should then disappear, and there we have it. So that must be it, because I haven't got the link set up to the privacy policy yet. So because it uses a particular technique to open a privacy policy, because that wasn't in place, then it was going to be impossible for me to submit the form. But in the resources section, I'll include the code for both of those things, and then we can you'll have all of the information. I'm just going to show you very quickly how to create that. Actually, let's do it. Let's do it now. Let's put this back and really see if that was the problem, because it's important for you to be able to see problems as they arise, because otherwise you're not going to be able to solve them yourself. So okay, so we've now got this you see the submit button is showing that there's an error, and I think it's related to this. Now the way I've got this set up is that this opens what's called a modal window in order to show the privacy policy. Now I'm just going to visit a site that already has some privacy policy code on there, or at least some text, and then I'm going to create it for this particular site. So if I just scroll down and grab this privacy policy text, I'm just going to highlight all of that and copy it to the clipboard. Now this is a little, it will appear to be a little bit tricky, but bear with me and just carefully watch it, and maybe watch this section a couple of times to see what I'm doing. I'm going to create a new page, and I'm going to give it the name Modal Privacy Policy. Doesn't really matter what you call it. I'm then going to set it to text, and I'm going to use this icon here, which allows me to access some of the Fusion Builder elements without creating a container on the page. And remember, I'm in text mode here. So I'm going to click on that, then I'm going to go to Builder Elements, then I'm going to go to Modal. I'm going to give the name of the modal, I'm going to make it Privacy. Then I'm going to change the modal heading to Privacy Policy. I'm going to set the modal to large, and then I'm going to paste my text into the content section. Then I'm going to click on Insert. Now before I do anything else, I'm going to copy all of this text to the clipboard. Then I'm going to save this as a draft. I'm not going to publish it because otherwise it will add it to the menu. We don't need it to be added to the menu. I'm just going to save it as a draft. Okay, so remember, I've got all of this text saved to the clipboard. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Appearance and Widgets, and I'm going to put something into the footer which is in fact going to be invisible, but it's going to contain that crucial bit of code that I need in order to open the privacy policy modal window, which is a pop-up window. So I'm going to drag custom HTML into the footer widget, and I'm going to paste all of that code into it. So now if I go back to the contact form and refresh, you see here where it says please check our privacy policy. If I now click on that, it's going to open a window with the privacy policy in it and give me the option to close it. And hopefully now, if I'm right, no, it's still not going to submit. So that was not the problem. But anyway, we needed to do that anyway, because that's now active. That modal privacy policy is active on that link, and also the one in the footer here. And there it is. So it's just pops up. Incidentally, you'll notice here that the privacy policy title is actually showing in white. That's because I think it's H3. It's by default it's an H3 tag. And if you remember, we made the H3 tag white. So if you wanted that to be black, you'd have to change the H3 tag back to black and see if and then on the page you might have to specify that you want it to show white on the page itself, rather than the default of it being white everywhere. Okay, so we've still got a problem with this contact form, and it may take a little time to diagnose. So I think for the time being, the best bet is really to move on. Let me just have one more look at it just to see if I can quickly diagnose what the problem actually is. While I'm doing that, I'm going to just create one more page, which is going to be a copy of this page. So I'm going to copy this to a new draft, and I'm going to call it thank you. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create the page that the user is directed through to once they've successfully submitted the form. You can leave it as the default. Contact Form 7 will just, if you prefer, just show a message once the form has been submitted underneath what was the form. But I much prefer to redirect the user through to a dedicated page where you can then obviously better determine what the user actually sees. So I'm going to call this thank you, and I'm going to change the parent to be contact. So what that will actually do is it will become a child page of the contact page itself. So let's just publish that. Now importantly, because I've made it a child page, it will not add it to the menu, because it will only add the top level pages. So if we have a look at the permalink here, we see that we've got contact and then thank you. So that indicates that it's a child page of the contact page itself. So this is where we've got the form. I'm now just going to eliminate that from the thank you page and instead just type in some text. So let's put a text block in there and say thank you, your message has been received and we will be in touch within 24 business hours. Something like that. Save that and update. Okay, that's just saving. As soon as that's saved, we'll have a look at it, and then I'm going to save the URL. or at least copy it to the clipboard. Okay, so there's our page. That's the page that's the user's going to be redirected through to. So I'm just going to copy that to the clipboard and then go back to the contact form and edit it. And I'm going to go to Customize. And you'll see I'm just going to disable Ajax because I find that it works better without that actually on. Exactly what that does, I'm really not quite sure, but I prefer that it's disabled. And then I'm going to paste in that URL to where it says redirect to URL on success. Okay, so that's the URL of the page that it's going to redirect through to once the form has actually been submitted. So now let's just go through and quickly check the settings. I'm just going to paste this code back in here. Got it going there. Let's just grab that to the clipboard and type in my do not reply at. Oh, not sure what happened there. Let's make it a bit smaller. Okay, so that's all fine. Let's save that. And go back to my form and just double check that this all looks okay. It all looks fine, so I'm absolutely confused about why this is not allowing me to submit the form. Ah, now it is. It's going to allow me to submit that form now. So it must be because I had not saved this information. So it wasn't seeing this additional, these fields were not included, so it knew that there was an error somewhere and the form was not going to work. But now it's going to work by the look of it. So now let's just quickly fill this in. Test, put in a number, an email address, blah-de-blah-de-blah. Okay, so now if I click submit, it should give me an error message to say that I need to you must accept the terms and conditions before sending your message. So that's the default. I much prefer to edit this text. So if you remember, we go back to form and messages and put that text in there. Click save. So now I accept the terms, click submit, and that should send the form. That will arrive to me via email and it's redirected through to the page. Wow, that was harder work than it should have been, but you see that once you get everything right in that contact form, it will work. It's just that you may have to play around a few times and just make sure that you've got everything exactly correct, and then everything will be fine. Okay, so finally, what we're going to do is we're going to look at an alternative to the home page header image. Now you remember that I put some extra space in here and that I said that if the image was too small, then it was not going to stretch across the full width of the page. Now there's something else that you can use that forces the image to stretch regardless of its size. Now that can be good and it can be bad. The image still needs to be big. If it's very small, then it will stretch the image and it will be poor quality. But so that's not really the main reason for using this. The main reason for using this different technique is if you wanted to have a number of images in the header. So you wanted a slider. You wanted to fade from one to another. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a component called the Fusion Slider. And first of all, what I need to do is I need to add a slider itself. So first of all, there's a slider and then there's slides. So let's call this homepage slider. It can be called anything you like, and you can set the height here. Let's say I want it to be 500 pixels high. Now you'll also notice there's a full screen slider option. So that means that it will stretch the image the full height of the browser viewport instead of just the height that you've set at 500 pixels as I've set it there. We'll have a look at that in a second. Let's just leave everything else just as the default for now. The animation is set to fade. There is also slide as an option, so that means that one image will slide into another rather than sort of blur out and then blur back in again. So I'm just going to leave it exactly as the default. The only thing that I changed was the 500 pixel slider height. Okay, so now we've got our homepage slider. Now I'm going to add a slide. So go to Add Edit Slides and then Add New Slide. So I'm going to call this Home Page 01. Doesn't really matter what you call it. Now you'll notice that here we've got the home page slider has become active because that's what we called our slider. So I'm just going to tick that. Then I'm going to set a featured image. So let's just choose one of these images that I've already uploaded. Okay, so now what we notice is there's something called the heading area. So in the heading area, I'm going to, let's just go back to the front end. I'm going to grab this text, Welcome to Alaska, and put that in the heading area, set it to H1, and center it. Then I'm going to copy the bit of text underneath and put that into the caption area. That's already set as an H3. Okay, the rest I'm just going to leave as the default, okay, for now, because I want you to see the effect. Okay, so let's publish that. And go back to the front end. Now obviously the front end at the moment is going to look exactly the same because I haven't actually made the change on the page itself. So let's close down this contact page and open the edit page, edit home page. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove all of this content now in the header. So I'm going to remove the separator, remove the text. I could just delete the container and create a new container, but let's just remove everything. Okay, so now the container is empty. It's as if I'd put a new one on there. I'm going to click Element. I'm going to find the Fusion slider element. There we go. And it's already selected the slider name because there is only one, so there's no other drop down available. Click Save. You see it's put Fusion slider in here now, and update. Now if I refresh, we should see the same image with the same text, but you see that it's got some, sorry, it's not the same image because I uploaded a different image, but it's got the title and the subtitle, if you like, and it's got a couple of buttons on here because they were included by default in the slider. I'm going to remove those in a minute, but suffice to say that if you wanted to put buttons on here, you could. Now, you also notice that it's in the grid, so let's go back and see if we can fix that, because what we need to do now is to change the setting from interior content width to site width to 100% instead, because we want it to stretch across the page. So let's update that and refresh. Okay, there we go. So that's now across the full width, but we've still got some content and padding issues, but we know how to fix that now. So we're going to go into the container and to design. We're going to remove all of the padding and margins and update. And that should now give us that full width and not height necessarily, but all the way to the edges and to butt up again. So we've still got this issue, a little bit of space, so we know again where that is. It's in the container itself. So let's remove the margins from the container row as well, and refresh that. Okay, there we are. Now you'll notice that the heading has a block behind it of slightly darker background color, and the same with the subheading. That's all controlled within the slider itself. So now we've got the slider placed nicely on the page the way we want it, we can just go back in and edit this first home page slide. So what we're going to change is we're going to change the heading background to no and the caption background to no. Now what that will do is it will take this block color away, this background color, this slightly darker color. Sometimes you need to use it because you want it for the purposes of setting the text onto it to be visible. But I prefer not to use it. I prefer to put the block color into the entire image itself. Now the other thing that we want to remove is the button. If you want to, you can put a link on the image itself. Let's just take these buttons out, so I'll just remove the code. You can actually set the full slide to link, so the user would click on this image and it will take them through to another page in your website or wherever you set the link to go. But for now we'll just we'll leave that empty anyway, and I've taken out the code for the button. So if I now update that and refresh the page, what we should see is that the background color disappears and the button text disappears. Now this is a little bit like, as I alluded to with getting the containers right, this first one. Once you get that first one right, then you can just copy it for the subsequent ones. So I'm now going to copy this exact same slide, but all I'm going to do is change the background image. Okay, so now let's go to add and edit slides, and we'll see the list of the slides we've got, and you see that we've got the clone option here. So I'm just going to click clone, and that will give me another copy which I can rename to number 2, and then I can just edit this image and make it a different image. Everything else can remain the same. I might want to change the title, or I might want to actually remove the title altogether. In fact, let's do that. Let's take that out, because on the maybe only the home page image, or the first image the user sees, we want the text on. Okay, so that's another image. Now I can go back and view all of the slides, and again clone the second one and make it home page 3, edit the image and replace it perhaps with that one, select home page slider and update. So now if I refresh the page, what we should see is that the images fade one into the other. There we go. Now that's quite a fast fade, and you'll notice we've got navigation icons here when I hover over it as well. I prefer not to see those. So if we want to, we can go in and edit the slide. So I've just gone to Fusion Slider, Add Edit Sliders, and I'm going to edit the home page slider. I'm going to make a couple of adjustments here. So first of all, I'm going to make this 600 pixels high instead of 500. I'm going to uncheck display the navigation icons. I'm going to set the slideshow speed to 5000 and the transition to 3000. Now I've found that, for me at least, gives me a much nicer speed of fade. You'll see the effect now. So we'll notice the navigation buttons have gone. Now the slider is just going to fade nicely one into the other. So there we have it. Okay, so I'm going to show you one more thing and then we're done for this module. It relates to the slider. Now if you remember, we have this option to say full screen slider. Let's check it. So what this will do is this will overwrite this 600 pixel setting and it will show the image to the full height of the screen. Now I'm going to update that and refresh the page and you're not going to see it. Now the reason you're not going to see it is because if you use this feature you have to put the slider onto the page in a slightly different way. So now let's just go back to edit the page. I'm going to remove this container. Actually I'm just going to refresh this because it may not have got the new setting that I made just there. Okay, so I'm going to remove this container. Then I'm going to scroll all the way down and I'm going to go to the section where it says Fusion Page Options Sliders. And I'm going to select the Fusion slider and the Home Page slider. Everything else remains the same. Now I'm going to update that. And if we scroll back up to the top, you'll see that it's put this section in saying I'm going to use the full Fusion slider. Now if we go and refresh this page, you should see that the home page image runs to the full height of the browser window. There we go. So that can be really, really powerful. You can be really creative using that feature. So that's pretty much it. You know, using the tools that you've seen over the course of this module and the previous module, you should be able to create a really beautiful looking website. What I suggest you do is you go in and you start to play around with adding containers, adding rows, adding elements. Have a look at all of the elements that you're able to put onto a page and just learn what each one of them does. You know, a lot of them, they're fairly self-explanatory. Well, they are self-explanatory in terms of the names of them. You know, if you wanted a pricing table, for instance, click on pricing table, see what it does. You can create pricing tables in columns. You can change the styling of it. You can create a progress bar. You can pull in recent posts from your blog. There are all sorts of things that you can do with the tools available to you within the Fusion Builder. And it's just a case now, knowing that you're able to lay out the page in a way that allows you to create a beautiful looking website, you're then just coming down to the decisions that you need to make in terms of what content you're putting on your site. So that will determine which element you want to put onto the page, and then you need to go in and configure that element to make it look the way that you want it to look. So that's pretty much it for the advanced layout tools. The rest of it really is down to you in terms of learning how to use those tools and becoming more and more familiar with them as you go along and create use them in the projects that you subsequently go on to create. Now, in the next module, I'm just going to cover a little bit about how to actually launch a website once it's ready to go, and then we'll look briefly at maintenance and support that may be necessary for your sites. See you in the next one.